Berkeley Homes, the non-trade, on what that means a bit more, about what's on offer in that space. I know last week we had a great session with some of the trade apprentices at Berkeley Homes. So this week we're going to be doing more of a session on the other alternatives out there, and what's on offer in that space. And we're lucky enough to be joined with some apprentices with us today who can tell us a bit more about that. I'm just going to give it kind of a couple more minutes because I know that there are a few students who are still to dial on, which I've spoken to today. Yep. So do bear with us for a couple of minutes. I just wanted to say to you guys that are already on the line, like, you're in the right place, don't worry. Yeah, we'll be starting in a couple of minutes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did see a couple of students that were on and then dropped back off.
Yeah, I can see a few more dialing in now, so that's great.
Yeah. George, I think George was on, but I think he's gone off.
Yeah, we'll just give it a couple of minutes, just because of those ones that we've seen on, and then they're going to be rejoining, and then we'll start off from there, because I know I've spoken to a few people today that are going to be joining, so we'll bear with them a few seconds, and then we'll start. But well done for joining now, when we'll kick off in a few minutes.
Oh, we've got Tracy Hill on the line as well. Hi, Tracy. Hope you're well. Don't worry, we won't make you speak today. The rain has stopped though, which is good.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's distracting when you're doing webinars.
Okay then, so I can see a few more dialing in, and in light of the fact that we're starting at 3:30, those of the students who haven't joined now, they can join in the next few minutes, and they'll just catch our kind of introduction. But well done for being here, as ever. We're always impressed by the students who have chosen to take some initiative and learn a little bit more about what's on offer, particularly as part of this HBF program. Then we just love seeing kind of the engagement of students. I know that we've been speaking to, our team have been speaking to lots of the students who are on our HBF program over the last week or so. And it's starting to become really clear around who is looking for which different roles, and how we can really support you. So I know I can see a few more names dialing in of students that we've actually spoken to, and we know that today will be really useful for. As I mentioned earlier, just in case you missed that, the session today is going to be on Berkeley Homes. We're lucky enough to be joined again by them and by some apprentices, particularly today, on those kind of non-trade roles and what that actually means. So rather than me kind of going through that, I'm going to wait and let them go through that themselves on their side. So just to give you a bit of an overview, then actually we've been lucky enough to be joined by 3 apprentices, so there'll be an even more special guest, which isn't on this slide, but yeah, so we've got some students who will be talking about, some apprentices who will be talking about their journey from students to now. So that would be brilliant. And initially we've got an intro again from Stav, who we were lucky enough to be joined with last week. We can talk a bit about Berkeley Homes as a whole for a few minutes. But before we do any of that, I know quite a few of you are familiar kind of faces and familiar names have dialed in, so you all know this, but just as a reminder, to communicate throughout the session, that's something we really encourage you to do, particularly as we know today is kind of an intimate group of students who are definitely really interested in the roles. So do ask questions. So there's a few ways you can do that. You can do it through the chat box. As you can see, Tracy and Chris have already had a conversation on that chat box, so you can write anything you want in there. But what I do really encourage you to do is write any questions you have in the Q&A box on the left-hand side. And don't worry, you're not interrupting us. Literally, no question's a bad question. Anything you think of as we're talking today. Well, not necessarily, Chris and I won't be the people talking for the majority of the session, but if you have any questions on anything that the apprentices or staff are talking about, then really do ask those questions, and we'll pick them up, so don't worry about interrupting us. If you are dialed in on your phone and you have any questions, like, don't let that hold you back. You know that you can email us in at the student inbox, so it's student@pathwayctm.com, and just put your name in there and the fact you're in the HBF webinar, because I can pick those up if you're struggling to get on via Zoom. That won't stop you. So that's really kind of the logistics of the session. As you know, these sessions are around, half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on your questions. So yeah, just use the time as much as you can. You've got a great opportunity to find out the truth about being an apprentice at Berkeley Homes, like the good things, the challenging things, all of those things. I just encourage you to really ask the questions that you have in your mind while you're at the moment thinking about making your next steps into the world of home building. So yeah, enough of me then. I'm going to just hand over to Chris really quickly to say a hello before we go into Stav and that initial overview of Berkeley Homes.
Yeah, and just thanks very much to Berkeley Homes again for supporting this. I think it's great that you guys do this as an organisation. It shows you really care about people joining your organisation, so thank you. I'm keen to ask the apprentices some questions myself, that's for sure. And just to see some regular names like Chris, Connor, Joseph. I think we just lost George. I think he just dropped off, but there's a few names that I recognise there, and I don't speak to you guys every day. So well done for getting on the session. What I'm hearing from my team is that CVs is quite a big thing we're helping you with at the moment, just to make sure your CVs are absolutely nailed down. So yeah, basically using this time over COVID-19 to get your CVs ready. Loads of you are already applying for the brands that we're working with through the HBF. So well done, really. And hopefully this can add a bit more to the session. And do ask questions if you have them. This is why we put it on.
Brilliant. So then thanks, Chris, and really over to you, Stav. Is it okay to give us that overview that you gave us last week in terms of Berkeley Homes for any of those students who might have not been on the session last week, before we dive into the apprentices themselves?
Sure. Okay. So my name's Stav. I'm the Apprenticeship Programme Manager for Berkeley Homes Capital. So I'm responsible for the recruitment and management of all the apprentices within our division. We employ apprentices each year. Traditionally, that's in September, so we follow the academic year. I can update you because I know there's been a question about applicants that have already done that, so I can update you maybe towards the end about that. It's a immersive apprenticeship program, and what I mean by that is that it's not just about sending you to your college or to your training provider to gain your qualification and for you to gain those skills on site, but it's also about giving you the opportunity to develop your personal skills and your professional skills that will be useful for you in the future. So the program that we run does, like every other apprenticeship, send you to college or send you to a training provider to gain your relevant qualification, but we also bolt on a lot of additional training, and that might be things like manual handling, it might be negotiation skills, it might be even things down to having breakfast with the managing directors for your business in that business and getting a chance to talk to them and share with them about your career. So that's what I mean by immersive. We offer both non-trades, so kind of management roles, and trade apprenticeships. The kind of non-trades / management roles vary. So I have apprentices doing digital marketing, quantity surveying, to kind of civil engineering, and kind of logistics or construction management, as well as things like business admin and finance. So a whole host of roles we've had in the past. No year is ever the same. So every year we relook at each of our building sites and our business needs and decide what roles we're going to have. So I can't sit here and say, I will have these roles year on, year out, but it will give you a flavour of the type of roles we have. And I won't say too much about the apprentices that joined me today, because I want them to share their story with you. What I will say is that, we are open for business. We do always look for apprentices. When that might be will vary this year because of COVID. But again, I can share maybe some of that towards the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Thank you so much, Stav. And also what I want to just, I think, touch on now is someone's actually signed into the webinar as Pathway CTM webinar, which I think is brilliant. But I guess that's an anonymous question, but a really good question to kind of kick off the session today, which I can kind of answer. So thank you for that question. So I have a question. Firstly, good afternoon to you all. So good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. But my question for you is, what would I be taking away from today's webinar? And I think that's kind of like a really good question to really start the session with today. Stav's given us an overview of the company as a whole, and it kind of leads in really nicely to our next section of the session. And what we really want you to get from today is understanding what actually life is like as an apprentice who might not be a trade role apprentice but fits into these kind of like non-trade roles. We've got 3 really good examples, but we'd really hope that by leaving the session today, you have an idea that if you're applying to these roles, what would life look like next year, the year after, when you're applying, when you're getting to these roles, and really how you can get there. What are the practical next steps in terms of applications and processes in order to get you into one of these non-trade roles at Berkeley Homes. So that's what we're trying to answer for you today. And I don't think I'm the best person on the line to really answer that question. So the first thing I'm going to do is hand over to Anthony. Is it right if you give us a quick, I guess, explanation of who you are, what you do, and really what journey you took to get there?
I'm Anthony. I joined Berkeley September 2018, and I joined the company as a ground worker, and I quickly changed to become a civil engineer within a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, around that sort of margin. Yeah, every day just setting out on site, getting from where I live in Essex to London every day for 7 o'clock. So days, but it's worth it.
No, that's great. So Jess, for everyone's benefit on the line, so ground working, what is that, I guess? Would it be okay to give us a bit of an idea? Maybe, I'm sure the students know maybe even more than I do, but it'll be good to get an idea of actually what that is.
Ground working is basically, so as the engineer, you're telling people where things are going and where everything's going to be located, and the ground workers are the people that actually put the services and all the drainage services into the ground, and they're building it up. So the engineer is like more of a, I guess, management kind of style role on site. However, the ground worker is just the labourer, so underneath the engineer.
Okay, cool. Right, that makes sense. Thank you. And just one more question from me before we move on to the other apprentices. So you say you're based in Essex, and did you do construction at college? Just because I know that some of our students on the line actually are from Essex and currently study construction at one of those colleges. So I wonder if, what your story is there.
Okay, so I left school 16 with all my GCSEs, 9 GCSEs, and I got into Southend College on a level 3 extended diploma in construction and the built environment. I passed that with D star, D, and then I got onto Berkeley's scheme as a ground worker. Wasn't actually what I wanted, but I just took what I could get, really, because I wanted the job and I wanted the exposure, and yeah, I just went for it, really.
That's great.
Can I just jump in to maybe explain a little bit more for people? So part of the to be able to do an apprenticeship, colleges have to be able to accept you to complete the apprenticeship qualification. Now, the course that Anthony had done at college was actually the theory, the diploma part of the apprenticeship that we were offering to civil engineers. So the colleges weren't accepting Anthony because in theory he'd already done half the course. So to ensure that because we realised that there was a great person in front of us that has a great career in front of him, that we decided to offer Anthony a different role that would still expose him to the right people in the industry. So the civil engineers, the people that do the setting out and the management of our kind of foundations, but put him in a groundwork position. And that's what he was saying. Those first 3 weeks were probably the toughest for Anthony, because he had to go, right, I no longer can use my brain. I've just got to do the work. but it was that attitude that then quickly turned him around from being the ground worker to them going, right, now we see the worth in Anthony. So Anthony's actually done 2 qualifications with us. He's done his groundwork apprenticeship, both his diploma and his MVQ, and we've additionally funded him to do his MVQ level 3 to match the diploma he'd already done at college. So he's basically took a step back to take the step forward and actually gained 3 qualifications out of this rather than the 1. But he won't say that to you, so I have to say it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that all paid off, and I'm sure that lots of our students will have questions about that and kind of look to you for some inspiration there, Anthony. So students, do get your questions in. I can see 1 or 2 already, but yeah, do ask the questions. But that's a great background, thank you. So then next I'm going to ask Emma, is it all right if you kind of introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so my name's Emma and I'm doing the logistics management course with Berkeley. My role kind of involves me being involved in everything. So I'm sort of involved in the site as well as the office as well. So I get to sort of work with the trades and see what they're up to, as well as sort of being in office and seeing what kind of goes on behind the scenes as well. So yeah, that's kind of why I took the role on, really. I came from admin, but it wasn't sort of demanding enough of my time. I just wasn't really enjoying it. So when I looked into logistics, I sort of see that I had a bit of both, and it was an easier route for me to kind of get into and get straight involved because of the admin side. And yeah, I really enjoy it. I love going. To be honest, I don't really touch the admin side now. I like being out on site and being more hands-on and involved.
That's great. And you say you came from an admin side of things. Did you mean did you come from college doing admin, or what was your route in to this apprenticeship?
So I was working for a family member doing dog grooming, so completely different, nothing related to any of this. But a family member fell ill, so I then had to go out and find more work. So I joined a company doing admin because it was just quick and easy for me to sort of get back into work. But like I said, it wasn't enough for me, and it sort of gave me the time to think about where I wanted to go. And I see that Berkeley was offering the apprenticeships. I see the logistics course and what it sort of included and whatnot, and it really appealed to me. I applied, went through all the process of the interviews and everything, and yeah, I got accepted and started September time last year.
That's an amazing story, actually, and it kind of reminds me of some of the conversations I know that our HBF team are having with the students around, you know, the importance of your own personal experiences and what kind of value they are in application processes. I'm sure, Stav, you'll kind of agree with us on that side of things. Actually, you know, personal life things that you've managed to that kind of experience you built up is really important, students to take down and think about how you can use your personal experiences to show that you have resilience, you have the right attitude, and you have, you know, you're hardworking. So that they're really good examples of that. Thanks, Emma. And then just the last kind of intro and a bit of an explanation around what you do. Georgina, is it right if you kind of tell us what you're doing at the moment?
I'm Georgina and I'm doing business admin.
Sorry, we're struggling
to sorry, I think one. Is that better?
Yeah, that's a bit better, thank you.
Yeah, I'm doing business admin. I left school and then I started in October, a month later than the other apprentices. And my job role kind of involves like preparing documents and like doing like jobs around the office to make sure everyone's like got all the stuff prepared for like meetings, and like helping some of the contractors on site because they don't have access to computers and stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. Great. And so did you also come from another job, or did you come from college, or how did you get into the apprenticeship?
I finished school and then I tried sixth form, but that weren't really working out. And I originally applied for quantity surveying, but they didn't have the job roles like available. So then I applied for the business admin to try and get back into Berkeley, but it's worked out quite good because a lot of jobs that involve admin.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it's a great experience. Well done. So that also is that good point around the fact that, you know, all three of the people we've just heard from, you know, they're all in Berkeley Homes and doing really successfully, but they've all come through really different ways of doing it. So thanks, that's great to give us a quick kind of overview in terms of what your role is and how you got there. Next question from me, I guess, and then I know I can see some questions coming in from the students will be much better than my questions, but Anthony, can you just maybe tell us a bit about what a typical day kind of is like for you, just for us to kind of get a view of what the role actually is, and if it kind of, for the students, if it might suit them?
Well, I get into site early, 7 o'clock, make myself a cup of coffee, sit at my computer for a little while, and just really just answer emails, work out what I'm going to be doing for the whole day. You plan out your day in the morning and then you go and do it. So basically, an average day would be, oh god, so it's really difficult to say like what you do like on a day that you don't know what you've done the previous day, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, every day is different.
Anthony. What you've done that day will kind of, in a way, determine what you do the next day.
I've asked you a very difficult question there then. So I guess maybe let me change my stance. I guess maybe the projects in general, what kind of projects are you working on?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So at the minute on my site, I'm working in a site in Enfield, Trent Park, and we're building houses, residential houses. And I'm, well, in my phase, well, what was my phase before this happened? We're just finished setting in the piles and building the ground beams up, and adding blocks and block and beam floors onto the foundations. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds bizarre because I don't know how else to explain it. But
yeah, that's great.
No, it's.
And
I don't know.
Anthony,
You just have to give them everything. Everything that you give them is what they work to. So if it's wrong, then whatever they've built, you've either got to redo it or, well, you get lucky. That's really it.
and just quickly, Ellie, Anthony, you say you get in at 7 a.m. and you leave Essex. So what time do you get up, and just talk us through how long that takes you?
It takes me 2 hours to get into work, and I'm up at 4.
What? Exactly. That's commitment. That's why he went from being a ground worker to civil engineer in 3 weeks, because of that.
Wow. Anthony, what time do you finish?
I finish at 5:45 most days.
Where do you want to go with your career?
What, like 10-year plan?
Yeah.
I'd say managing director or like head of construction, maybe.
Fair play. Sorry, that's a good question. It's just interesting. You're an interesting guy. Like, that's dedication. The last webinar I was on, people from HomeBuilding get up early, but God, it just shows like the level of commitment. Yeah, it's massive.
Thank you.
But you know that, and I come back to that is because the site that Anthony's been placed on is in North London. So for him to get there actually isn't the easiest route. You know, tomorrow we may return back to site and he might be at South Quay Plaza. Completely different site, completely different type of development. Travel times will vary. But you know, for Anthony, if his heart is set on that kind of management role, then he needs to be showing people from quite an early stage that he's prepared to put that commitment in. That's not come from me. That's not because Barclays are telling him he has to put those hours in. His contracted hours are 8 to 4:30. But he decides that actually to be, you know, to be productive and to be able to show people the best side to him, he puts in those extra hours. And you know, and he's, hats off to him. The recognition's been given to him on lots of different levels. People are aware of Anthony and the work that he puts in and the hours he puts in. So you know, it's not that we make him do that. I just want to make that clear.
It's not slave labour, trust me.
We make him do those hours. Do longer hours. We might sweeten it, but we don't make him.
That's amazing, yeah, and I guess that's a good question, I guess, which we could maybe ask to Emma and Georgina too. So Georgina actually first. And so with your role with business admin, are you always based in the central office, or do you ever go to site, or how does that work for you, Georgina?
I'm mainly based in the office. So,
Okay, great.
like site, but it's on site, like for the site office.
Oh right. So would it change? Are you ever based in different site offices and different offices and different sites, or is it always going to be at the same one?
It's normally mainly at my one.
Oh great. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Emma, from your side, from a logistics side, do you move sites and with very different projects, or how does that work for you?
So far, my project's still going, so I haven't had to move. However, there has been talks of me moving to a different site with a different logistics company just to see sort of how they do things compared to the company I'm with now. So I may be moved to a different site for 2 weeks or so just to see what they're doing compared to us, because obviously the site overall is different, the companies are different. So it's just to get a feel of something else, which I personally think is really good, because I may not be with this company forever. I could move on to a different company, so at least I get a feel to see how other people work and do things. Yeah,
amazing. That's such a good part of kind of the learning process of the apprenticeship as a whole as well, isn't it? Just getting that experience. No, that's a really good point. Thanks. And I'm going to move on to like just one question that's come in, another couple of questions that have come in. So first, starting off, a question for you: how would I be able to get myself involved with Berkeley Homes? Would I have to apply for them online, or? So I'm actually going to ask that one to Stav, because I think that you'll be the best one to give us a bit of a view on that at the moment. What advice would you give Berkeley?
So the advice is to apply. You have to apply to be one of our apprentices. Our application's done online, and you would then go through a recruitment process for that. I will add that because of the kind of pandemic that we're in at the moment, we've had to relook at when our apprentices start. So we're not going to be starting any apprentices in September, unfortunately. Purely because, but from what it looks like, the government's still going to have some social distancing in place, and I can't start apprentices social distancing. It's not going to work. So we're delaying the start date till January 21, when we'll then look to kind of bring in new apprentices. So at the moment, what we're saying is application forms. You can still submit an application form to us. We will then email you back to ask whether we'll make it clear about the kind of dates have changed, and we'll ask whether you're okay for us to hold on to your application form or not. And then we will, assuming everything goes okay, and we'll start recruitment properly in September again. We will then put you through the kind of recruitment process in September, and that will probably look like something like an interview, group assessment, drug and alcohol test, and then a director's interview for you before you start with us. So there's quite a lot of steps to go through, but I have to say it's worth it in the end, because I run the program, so it's definitely worth it in the end.
And Stav, just on that, so Tommy, good questioning from you earlier. He's obviously was asking that question. He's applied to quantity surveying, site managing, and groundwork. So you can apply for more than one role. Is that right, Stav?
Absolutely apply for more than one role. What will happen is, in your first interview with myself and my colleague Gary, we will drill you to make a decision which is your first, second and third choice. And you have to be able to answer why you've applied for those three roles. What I would advise is, if you're, don't apply to be a quantity surveyor and choice 2 is be a bricklayer, because they are two very completely different roles requiring very different skills. But if you do something what Anthony did, which is apply to be a civil engineer and then do groundwork, they're in the same work area, they're with the same kind of contractor, you're exposed to the same type of work. So think about what you're applying for. I have no problem applying for more than one role, but I will make you choose a particular role to focus on through your recruitment. Now, I've had in the past where someone's applied to be, say, site managers, and we haven't had enough site managers, and then I've got back to them and said, I don't have a site manager role, but I do have logistics management. It's similar. Would you consider it? So if I find one who I think is worth investment, I'll always go back to them with a different role if I can. because my business is trying to get apprentices into the business, and that, you know, I want to make sure we get the right ones in. So to answer Tommy's question, he can apply for more than one role. Tommy will receive an email from us over the next couple of days asking whether he wants us to hold on to his application form or not. We have to do that under GDPR. Based on that response, we will then look at taking it from there. But we wouldn't put anyone through any recruitment process until September onwards.
Okay. Well, Tommy, look, you know, you've applied for 3 things there. You say you're really keen to work at Berkeley. I'm hoping, well, maybe get in touch with us on the chat box, you know, January. You know, let's just keep working with you until then. They'll look at your application in September, and hopefully then you can get through and start in January.
Yeah.
That'll be the aim, Tommy.
That's a great response from Tommy as well. So thanking you. I'm just going to go on to the next question, just because we've got loads coming in, which is great. This is a random question, which we appreciate. We always like the random questions, but and a brilliant question actually. What are the pros and cons of working at Berkeley Homes, which is the first one? So who better to ask than the people who are apprentices there at the moment? So Emma, I'm going to go to you first. Pros and cons of working at Berkeley Homes?
I can't really think of cons, but I mean, I would say the pros are that any problem, anything you're struggling with whatsoever, you have got Stav and Gary there as your supporters to help you. And if it's something they can't help you with, they will go to who they need to get them to help you. So, for instance, your line managers or mentors or just whatever, they know who to go to have them help you. I suppose some of the conferences and stuff you go to are always fun. That's nice to get to see everyone. You get to see the whole company overall, which is nice. You get to mix with everybody at sort of conferences. They're always making such a big thing of their apprentices as well. So you've got like apprenticeship awards and stuff. Whether you get sort of nominated for an award or not, it's always nice to go and see other people get praised for the work they've done. So I'd say that's pros. As for cons, no, I'd be lying if I tried to think of one.
Oh well, that's great. Well, what about you then, Anthony? And then we'll come back to you, Georgina. Anthony, what would you say pros and cons, I guess, in Berkeley Homes as a whole?
Pros, just the level of exposure you get. To be honest, the people that they actually put you with are, say, in my kind of position, I've been with 2 subcontractors, Coinford and Landmark, currently with Landmark, and in both instances, great people working alongside with you, like great people that you're learning from, great people that are there to support you from also at Berkeley and with the subcontractor themselves. It's really good, it's really structured. You know that Gary and Stav are always there, but to be honest, if your subcontractor is good and you kind of get a relationship with them, then they're going to understand your situation, and Gary and Stav are always going to be there to support you anyway. So it's benefits on both sides really. As for cons,
come on, Anthony.
From my standpoint, it would probably be money. But that's the only kind of thing, really. When you realise how much money the other people that you're working alongside you are earning, that's kind of the kicker, really, because you realise that a labourer is getting paid more than you, but I mean, in terms of responsibility, you've got more responsibility than him, and I mean, it's a kicker, but it's in the long run, really. It's what you got to take out of it.
That's brilliant answers though, and like we said at the beginning, that it's good to have those kind of views and with the experience and side of things. That's a great answer. And then quickly, Georgina, I know we have loads of questions coming in, so I don't want to I want to make sure we get through them. But anything else you'd add? I know that it's hard once you've had 2 sections of people saying the pros and cons, but what would you add? Anything?
I'd just say like the support you get. Like in my office, you can go to anyone. They sort of treat you as like a family. You don't feel anywhere about going to them with any problem.
That's really nice to hear, particularly these students. Well, we've got mainly 16 to 18-year-olds, and that transition from college, I guess, having a supportive network to work in afterwards, really, really great.
Cool. I've got some questions here coming through at the moment. So I've got one here saying, thank you for that. Really helpful. This is maybe for the earlier comment. Reason being is that my plumbing and central heating course is finishing this year, and I ideally wanted an apprenticeship before September so I could continue getting the NVQ. So being as the recruitment has stopped, how would I go about getting an apprenticeship and receiving my NVQ level 3? Stav, anything to comment on that?
So this was plumbing and electrical. Have I understood that right?
Yes, that plumbing and central heating course.
Okay, so it's not actually an apprenticeship we offer. What I would say is that the best course of action is for you to look at agencies that specialise in that, and the name's completely left my brain. I think I can't remember if it's ELT or JTL. I can't remember which way around. Yeah, they specialise in engineering. That's where I would probably go to first. Look, there are other apprenticeships out there, and there may still be going ahead for September intake. So just because we're not doesn't mean other people are not doing it. So I wouldn't lose all faith in it. And the other option is, if an apprenticeship isn't available, is there an opportunity for you to go in as a mate, so like an assistant, and then do your NVQ once you're in post? You know, if it's a case that you just need your NVQ, you don't need the whole apprenticeship. There are other ways of achieving that. But I suppose there's a couple of things for you to explore there. I'm happy to give more details if that doesn't answer the question for them, though.
No, thanks, Dave. It's good for you for the professional to answer it rather than rather than me, I suppose. And do Berkeley Homes hire electrical apprentices? I'll just let you answer that one, Stav, because it's come up.
No, we do not.
No, absolutely. And while I'm on a roll, Owen, a good question from you then. So what is happening with work experience this year due to COVID-19? I could answer that as well, Stav, but do you want to give it? No, that's fine. So, look, it's not happening for you. No. I mean,
at the moment, I'm just about trying to get my apprentices back on site to then try and get a work experience in there. It's just, unfortunately, under the restricted numbers, we can't accommodate that at the moment.
But Ellie, in terms of what we're doing on the programme, you might want to comment.
Yeah, I think also just a point to make there, even though it's not a physical work experience on site, the fact that you're on here today is experience and something you can definitely talk about in applications. So whether it's for Berkeley Homes, whether it's for another construction company, the fact that you're remotely now accessing apprentices and professionals that work in construction and home building brands, that's in a way is a form of experience that you can definitely talk about. And also through our program, we're now kind of looking at how we can help to develop that into more kind of interactive workshops and things like that. So albeit now we're having a webinar and we're talking through a presentation, but I guess hold tight, Owen, for the next kind of few weeks and how we can develop that to make it more interactive for you. I guess also beyond that, then this kind of situation will come to an end, touch wood, not that I know anything more than any of the rest of you, but as soon as kind of site visits and work experience opportunities do come up, then through Pathway CTM, the fact that you're on this today, you'll be made aware of them, Owen. So good question, and we'll let you know kind of as and when that work experience is available. I just wanted to then go on to the next question because so it's a really good one. Mental health is a big thing right now. What does the construction industry do to support you? And I know that you mentioned that at the beginning, Stav, and Anthony, you've been taking part in some. I wonder whether you could give us an idea of those sessions you've kind of been taking part in.
Well, I done one last week, and it was all about how you interpret and how you use stress to your advantage. It's all about channeling the negative thoughts that come into your head, and letting them go, and then just using that leftover energy and putting it into something good. And the one I done today, 12 o'clock, was a thing called stress meditation, and it was really good actually. It was, I don't know what else to say about it really. It was just really good.
No, that's great, and it shows that, well, I guess I know you've asked about the construction industry as a whole, but it sounds like Berkeley Homes are really doing things to help support I don't know, Sav, if there's anything else on your side you wanted to add on that, but that sounds like you've got brilliant things on offer.
Yeah, so we mental health is a big thing for us. It all comes under our health and well-being for all of our staff, and it then comes under health and safety. So it's kind of all very much interlinked for us. So we have mental health first aiders. So myself and my colleague are both mental health first aiders. We then tap into professionals as and when we need it. So we've got a doctor that comes to site that is doors open, it's free for people to use. We then can tap into kind of occupational health therapies, things like counselling, assessments. And then on top of that, we offer something like what Anthony's been talking about. So that might be, I don't know, we might have eating healthy to keep your mind healthy. We might have something around, we might put a HIIT class on for people to join, kind of exercises to keep fit. Or it might be meditation, or it might be stress release, or it might be, so I remember a couple of months back, we had a coffee morning in one of the sites, and it was all about people just coming together to have a coffee and a tea and chat, because chatting is good for people, so we do a lot. None of it is compulsory. It's all up to people to decide whether they want to engage or need to engage in that. And what I would say is that mental health for us is treated just the same as whether you cut your hand. The principle of the fact that you need support it is given to you at all different levels. And it's not something that is done to you, it's something that's offered if you want to tap into it.
That's amazing. And I know it looks like Tracy Hill, thank you for this, which is an extension of that HBF is working with all the home builders to promote MHFA, share support networks and strategies, work with the Lighthouse Company who support construction workers sector-wide. So that's brilliant to show that actually answering that question beyond Berkeley Homes, which obviously Sav you've spoken for, but that is across the industry. So there is support out there. But brilliant question for the student that asked that. I think it's really important.
Definitely, and it just shows, like, at Pathway we work across loads of different sectors, but the fact that you guys as apprentices came on here today saying you've just done that course, it just shows, and the amount at length that Stav's spoken about that, and Tracy from the HBF, just shows that in this industry you are going to get looked after. So it's important, isn't it? I was just on a webinar previously talking about values and picking a company in a sector based on their values, and I think that's a really important factor. That if you're going to get love and get supported from your employer, such as Berkeley, then it's a good thing, I think, definitely. So I've just got one here from Joseph. Joseph, I know you're a bit of a legend on these because you do turn up to them, so well done. He just asked about carpentry, Stav, and maybe how many roles you have and what you're looking for with that.
Off the top of my head, I think we're going to be looking for, it was 2 apprenticeships. I have to be very honest though, that was to start in September, so I can't tell you what that's going to look like in January because inevitably things are going to have to change. But I'd like to think that probably the carpentry is going to be one of those things that we'd probably be able to take more of in January than we would have in September. But I can't give you a definitive number, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Joseph, could you maybe just let us know in the chat box what you're thinking about that January date as well? Because like gut feel from my point of view, working at an amazing company like Berkeley, I would hold on and obviously stay in that process. So Stav, I suppose you're going to look at these again in September, aren't you? So if I've got my application in with you, you're going to let me know if it's fine to continue that application. Hopefully I will then say yes. I've got to check my emails next week. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Check my emails next week. Then that goes back to you. And then you're going to look through it. And then will I know from you? When will I know from you? When will I hear back from you next? Just so these students know. No.
You probably won't hear back from me until September.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, then come September, I'll have a better idea of what roles we'll be able to carry forward.
Fine. Okay. So guys, it's all about waiting till September and then going from there, really. But it's just the way it is, really. Stav, is that the same across other companies? I mean, do you know much? Can you give any insight there if students are thinking about the September start date or anything else?
The only insight I can give you is some of the colleges that I've been speaking to and how who we send quite a few of our apprentices to And some of the feedback I've got from those colleges is at the moment, they're not sure they're going to be in a position to enrol students in September.
Yeah.
I've got other colleges saying, we will enrol in September, we'll do it all electronically. And so I think it really does vary. From some of the other kind of supply chain businesses that we work with, that I know take on apprentices, a lot of them at the moment, who are smaller than us, have put a hold on their apprenticeship until the government's kind of given a bit more information in terms of when we can go back to normal, and then they'll be able to assess that, you know, the need for their business. So it's not all negative. I just think that we've just got a bit of a pause on this at the moment, and I think that's the right thing to do under the current circumstances. I know it's really difficult for people who want to look for work and are prepared to start in September. What I would say to you is, you know, September's far away. A lot can change between now and September. You know, we might get to the end of June and we're back to normal, and therefore things might change again. Yeah. So, I'm always the positive spin on things. So hence I'm staying a bit more positive on things.
Exactly. I guess from, you know, if I'm talking impartially, Berkeley probably looked at the worst case scenario and given that situation, which is January. But like Stav's just said there, if things start to change, then bang, who knows? It could be September again. It might be the month after that, or, you know. So I think be positive about it. And remember, like, you know, you're young and you've got so many opportunities to hopefully like live with your parents, potentially with not much rent or rent free, and bide your time a little bit. So you can wait for these sort of opportunities. I guess I'll just come to Anthony, Emma, Georgina. What would you guys say if you were in that position? What would you be thinking, or any advice from you guys? It's a tough one, isn't it? Worth waiting for, though, right?
What, in terms of waiting?
Yeah. For example, COVID-19, it's tricky, but, you know, hopefully you'd be living at home, potentially. You know, you've got a bit of flexibility. You know, Berkeley's it's a big company, right? A big opportunity.
I think with the way things are going at the minute, you can't go out and get yourself a job anyway. No one's going to be taking anybody on unless sort of you're going in as a key worker. So I would take this time now to sort of think about everything you want to do. And if it gets to September and things are sort of rolling, then I would 100% say wait. But I suppose there's some cases where people need to go to work for money more than anything. So if it's a case of not being able to, then that's understandable. But myself, I would wait. Considering what I've got and what I'm doing now, I would wait.
I'm sorry, Anthony, were you going to comment on that as well?
Yeah, in terms of waiting, it like Stav was saying, there's plenty of other like big companies that offer apprenticeships and stuff like that, like Skanska, Lang & Rourke, just to name a few. But I don't know, they're probably doing the exact same thing as Berkeley, so it is just a difficult time. Yeah. But I don't know, I probably would wait for Berkeley. And I held out for Berkeley and they did actually pull through, so it is worth it. It is definitely worth it.
But it's pretty cool, guys, that you're on these webinars. You're speaking to Stav, who obviously is going to be making the decisions. Hopefully, Stav, actually, no, maybe I'll ask Anthony and Emma and Georgina. Guys, do you, in your sector, would you use LinkedIn to connect with people and stuff? Do you use that, I wonder, at all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. Okay. I got made to make an account by my line manager, so he's getting me using it and into it and everything.
All right, so my question for you is, my heart's set on Berkeley like it is with Tommy, who told us that at the beginning. I've just met Stav, obviously, on this webinar. What would you guys be doing to try and get yourself in there as much as possible?
Oh, 100% trying to connect with them on LinkedIn, like 100%. Just making sure that their name is all you're seeing, like everywhere. Just Anthony Howe or whatever your name is, or like whatever your name is, just make sure it's like number one.
Yeah, sorry, Stav, but look, I think it's important, isn't it? Like these students are doing really well here. They're speaking to you, like they're asking questions. I want to help them out as much as I can.
You know, the other thing I would say is keep an eye on things like Instagram and kind of Facebook and YouTube. You know, Berkeley's has loads of different social media platforms, and you know, keeping abreast of what the business is doing, where is it going, and there is absolutely no harm in sending an email to the Reach Apprenticeship email with, you know, just checking in, seeing how things are going, or, you know, whatever it is. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I can't promise you, I'm not in the business of making a promise I can't keep. Can't promise you that I'm going to be able to answer every single one of them, get you the you want, but I'm doing my damnedest.
Brilliant. Thank you. I just got one more question, guys.
Sorry.
It's really helpful. No, it's good. Emma, you mentioned there, obviously you're a logistics manager, and you love being outside, being hands-on and involved. Like, what do you love about being out on site, I wonder?
You're just sort of, you're seeing everything. You're involved in everything. I mean, you could sort of stand with the electricians and see how they're doing things. You could go and stand with the plumbers another day and see how they're doing something. You could be standing in an empty room one day and the next day you go in there and it will be like almost kitted out sort of thing. You just see so many different, you just see how things develop so quickly. It's amazing to see it. And I don't know, you just sort of, it's a bit more free. You're just out, where when I'm in the office, I feel like I'm kind of stuck at my desk. I have to sit at my desk sort of thing. Like, I don't enjoy that as much. So to be out on site and see people talk and see what they're up to and their daily sort of routine and everything, I enjoy that. I really enjoy sort of doing that.
It's interesting, thank you. And just to come to Georgina, if I may. Georgina, conversely, you are in the office, aren't you, with business admin?
Yeah.
You say that you help the contractors sometimes who don't have computers. Are you gonna stay in the office with your career, or are you thinking of going out on site like Emma as well?
I'm not too sure yet, to be honest, because I've only really just like, I don't know.
We've got different personalities, that's
Yeah.
for sure. I'm a bit more out there. I'll chat to anyone and everyone.
What do you think, Georgina, about the site? Have you been out on site before?
I went to my sister's site and I went and see that site, but with my one, you don't really get to see as much of what's going on, and then you're kind of like you'll only see what's on show when you're in the office.
Mine's a tower, so you sort of, what's there is kind of in front of you. Her one's more houses, so it's spread out. So you have I suppose there's like more land to cover to go out and see things, where for mine it's sort of going up. It's easier to see everything.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. Well, that's, yeah, I guess, sorry, just to bring it back to me in terms of, well done, everyone, in terms of joining the session today. It's like so impressed always by the questions, engagement. Firstly, I guess, thank you so much to Berkeley Homes, Anthony, Emma, Georgina, and staff for organising. We appreciate it so much, and I know that the students do too. It's really kind of, I've learned a lot in terms of, you know, knowing various things and what those different roles consist of, and I know that it'll be the same from the students' perspective. I just want to touch on one point which was made earlier around some roles which are still opening in September. Obviously, we're lucky enough to be joined by Berkeley Homes today, but obviously we are connected with other home builders, and we'll obviously make sure to communicate those roles which are still open in September, those that are opening the cohort, as Stav said, for January, but also as and when decisions and changes are made. Like Stav mentioned, we'll just keep you really closely updated. We catch up with the Berkeley Homes team, and so don't worry, there won't be a lack of kind of communication on that side. So you'll get updated with these roles and what those timings are looking like. So don't worry about that. You'll all get a follow-up from today's session as an attendee. So that will be kind of a recording of today's session for anyone who wasn't able to make it, but also kind of next steps in terms of what to do and a bit of feedback on today's session. As you can see kind of on the screen now, then there are two ways you can get in contact with us. I do really encourage you to follow us on Pathway CTM Instagram. Like Stav mentioned, I know that I follow the Reach Apprenticeships as well, so why not follow the Berkeley Homes Reach Apprenticeships Instagram account. But if you have any other questions as well, then do email us at student@pathwayctm.com. I know that Chris has just popped that in the chat box, so go ahead and send you know, any help you need on your CV, any of those things over the next few weeks, then we're always here. And that LinkedIn kind of action after today's session, then, you know, feel free to add any of us on LinkedIn, because Oh, I can just see some people following us on Instagram, and I love seeing it in real time. So well done to Owen, Tommy, and Joe. Already signed up, so that's brilliant. And please just keep an eye out. And same time next week. Like you'll gain so much in these sessions, like today we have. Well done for joining, and thanks so much to all of our panelists today. It's been great.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See the rest of you next week. But thanks to the Berkeley Homes team.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.